The Tokugawa shogunate was the last feudal Japanese military government, which existed between 1603 and 1867. As a political change, they unified Japan and put local lords under central government control. The Tokugawa shogunate had kept an isolationist policy for 200 years, allowing only Dutch and Chinese merchants at its port at Nagasaki. Western nations wanted to end with Japan's isolation. The first foreign power to sign a trade agreement with Japan was the United States. Samurai warriors did not want to open Japan to a foreign power, and so they created the Sacho Alliance and forced the shogun to promise to end relations with the West. When the shogun refused, the Sacho leaders attacked Shogun's palace in Kyoto. The shogunate system collapsed, and the Meiji Restoration began. The Meiji Emperor was an enlightened ruler, and Sacho controlled him. The Meiji Restoration incorporated some new reforms. Peasants were given land, there was a land tax, the government invested in industries, transportation and communication was improved, etc. They also improved military and education. Japan wanted to expand its territory, and thus the Russo-Japanese War began. Japan won. This marked the first victory of an Asian nation over a European power, made Japan one of the great powers, and ended Russia's expansion in East Asia.
Democracy in China in the 19th century. Democracy was introduced to China in the late 19th century. The first introduction of the concept of a modern democracy into China is credited to exiled Chinese writer Liang Chao. In 1895, he participated in protests in Beijing for increased popular participation during the late Qing dynasty, the last ruling dynasty of China. This was the first of its kind in modern Chinese history. Liang shaped the ideas of democracy that would be used through the new century. Liang favored gradual reform to turn China into a democratic constitutional monarchy. Liang's great rival among progressive intellectuals was Dr. Sun Yat-sen, a republic revolutionary. Some felt that democracy would be impossible as long as the Qing monarchy still exists. The China's first modern elections were organized by Yuan Shikai for the Tianjin Country Council in 1907. When the 1911 revolution began, it was the provisional assemblies that provided legitimacy to the rebels by declaring their independence from the Qing Empire. In the late 1912 national elections were held with an large electoral, albeit still small proportional to the national population. The 1947 National Assembly and the 1948 legislative elections were boycotted by the Communists, which held most of the northern China as a result of the nationalists and their junior coalition partners, the Chinese Youth Party and China Democratic Socialist Party won. The People's Republic of China was initially based on Mao's concept of new democracy, not to the immediate dictatorship of the proletariat. In December 2008, more than 350 intellectuals and cultural leaders, including Liu Shibo, issued Charter 08. The charter said China remains the only large world power to still retain in an authoritarian system that so infringes of human rights, and this situation must change. Political democratic reforms cannot be delayed any longer. In 2014, Hong Kong experienced massive protests against the Chinese government decisions to not allow full universal suffrage as candidates have to approve by a committee in the Communist Party.
In the 19th century, China was a manufacturing power, but it was about to be overtaken by Europe, but still was involved in world trade, especially it was an importer of silver. The Chinese would only buy silver. They mostly traded tea for silver with England. England, after realizing they had lost a lot of silver in this trade, they found that Chinese people would buy opium. Opium, a highly addictive drug that caused most of the people in China became addicted to it, was being traded all over China. China confiscated a lot of opium and they threw it to the ocean and made it illegal. Because of this, China got influenced with the British. The British told China that they should pay them back all the opium that was thrown to the ocean and wasted. China refused it, and this caused the Opium Wars. The British sent their battleships to China, and in 1842, Chinese General Jing made a counterattack. This didn't work, and after failing to this, Chinese signed the Nanjing Agreement, and one of the conditions it was that China would give Hong Kong to British, so to use it as a port, so they can trade, and also the Chinese laws wouldn't apply to the British, but only the Europe laws would apply to them.
Democracy and capitalism are Western ideologies. They developed in Europe and they spread when the European powers conquered new territories. Democracy in India started the same way. In 1600s, England developed something called the British East India Company. As the name suggests, this was a company that was set in India. It was the enterprise of London businessmen who banded together to make money importing goods from Asia. This company, though, not only established trade, but it also became the ruler of territories. England used it to establish colonies. For a very long time, these colonies were ruled indirectly, but discontent grew. England established an army and recruited Indians. All Indians who formed part of the army were called sepoys. In 1857, a growing Indian distrust of the British led to a revolt. The British called the revolt Sepoy Mutiny. Indians called it the First War of Independence. Now, religion, no matter where, is always a pretty big deal. And in this case, it was the major cause of the uprising. There was a rumor that the troops' new rifle cartridges were greased with cow and pig fat. The cow was sacred to Hindus, and the pig was taboo to the Muslims. To load the rifle at the time, soldiers had to bite off the end of the cartridge. To the sepoys, touching these greased cartridges would mean they were polluted, so they refused to fight. The British charged them with mutiny and imprisoned them. This enraged the other sepoy troops, and soon enough, most of India had joined the revolt. Within a year, however, Indian troops loyal to the British and fresh British troops had crushed this rebellion. Indian troops were not well organized, and rivalries between Hindus and Muslims kept the Indian from working together. As a result of the uprising, the British Parliament transferred the powers from the East India Company directly to the British government. This rebellion, although it failed, helped fuel Indian nationalism. The rebellion marked the first significant attempt by the people of South Asia to throw off British rule. Now, the British government began to rule India directly. This brought both benefits and costs for Indians. Some of the benefits included order and stability to a society badly divided into many states with different political systems, a fairly efficient government, and a new school system. But only British and a small number of Indians reaped financial benefits from British rule. It brought hardship to millions. Increased taxes forced the less fortunate to become tenants or lose their lands entirely. People starved and unrest grew. This led to an Indian nationalist movement. And this is when educating the people they conquered backfired on the British. See, the first Indian nationalists were upper class and English educated. Some were even trained in British law and were members of the civil service. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi studied in London, and his movements were what eventually gave India its independence. By educating the people they had conquered, they accidentally gave them the weapons they needed to become their own country. They taught them about democracy, and Indians used that knowledge to get their freedom.